Welcome to the Magdalene Interview Series. We are live. I have with me today Dr. Kimberly Rose Pendelton. So excited about this conversation. I want to drop in right away and ask you in our audience, when it comes to creating wealth, do you think of Mary Magdalene? When it comes to using wealth, do you think of Mary Magdalene? I think many of us today do not and have not been taught that element. And this is an element that Dr. Kimberly really brings in and speaks to. We want to hear from you in the comments as much as possible in this, whether you're watching live or watching on the replay. As you know, I've created this Magdalene interview series to widen the conversation about Mary Magdalene. I've gotten a lot of feedback from women as I've been holding these conversations, and some are so enthused, and some are like, I am not satisfied with this Magdalene space because the conversation feels too narrow. And so that's where we're trying to go. We're trying to talk about lineage. We're trying to talk about race. We're trying to talk about honoring people's lived experiences. We're also talking about religion, all of the pieces that maybe most people kind of say are taboo. We're bringing into this interview series today. And I'll just also lead out with, I'm doing this in partnership with the fact that I'm leading a Magdalene pilgrimage to the south of France in September. And so if that's interesting to you, please DM me. Would love to talk with you about it. And what's so cool today is Dr. Kimberly is also leading pilgrimages and retreats to the south of France in partnership with Mary Magdalene. And so this is a space where we are like putting our beliefs into practice and saying we believe in collaboration over competition. And like, if you are in my community and you resonate with her message, please do follow her. And I hope that if you're in her community and resonate with mine, give me a follow as well, because that's what
that's how it works. That's how we do this. That's how we,
Exactly.
Yes.
So welcome. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you do.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for doing this series and just your whole heart and orientation around this work. But yeah, hi everyone. I'm so honored to be here. I'm Dr. Kimberly Rose Pendelton, and I'm the founder of Uncover, which is an intimacy and pleasure coaching business. And I really have focused on intimacy and pleasure for women who are reclaiming our lives, especially after trauma. So sexual trauma and religious trauma have been kind of like the main things that first I felt like I was, sorting my way through. And then in sharing my story and sharing, everything from like the research I had done, getting my doctorate and like, my different more academic training, because I had been planning to be a women's studies professor. But then I learned about coaching and started to really fall in love with just like helping people more directly, it felt like. And so it put me on this path, and I started having these incredible conversations and just sharing everything I had been through and learned and helping other people with it. And it felt like this pull toward sharing what I had learned and studied about Mary Magdalene was always like in the background. Like it was like I knew this had been a big part of my master's in religion. It had been a big part of my own research and my own personal journey. But honestly, like it didn't feel necessarily like I was ready to share about it until it was woven in. It was like actually I went back to my very first Instagram post about Uncover and I had hashtagged Mary Magdalene. So I'm like, okay, you were like hinting, but I didn't actually open the mystery school until last year. I think I was afraid first. And so to be welcomed into that space with so many clients signing up, but also so many colleagues being like, welcome. Yeah, we were waiting. I even had colleagues being like, I was wondering when you were going to finally like do this. And so, and I include you in that, like tremendously, so many other priestesses and other scholars of this work, I feel like we're like, yeah, welcome. Like we've needed your version, your flavor, your contribution around the fire. And a lot of that actually, and this has been so like personally redemptive, but a lot of it has been like, we've wanted the academic side. And I have always like felt this existential struggle between these like parts of me, you know, because it's like, oh, I didn't do the professor thing I thought I was going to do. And I feel like now the priestesses are saying, like, no, that's good. Bring that over here. Like, we'll take it. We'll use that part of you. And it's been so healing.
That is so that's so true. So it's challenging. Like as I've come into the space, I've noticed it's challenging um because some people are very puritanical, I feel like, about
Yeah.
what they know to be true about Mary Magdalene because
Yeah.
they received it through channeling or because in the particular version that they learned it from or whatever. I'm
Yeah.
super curious how you hold space for that because I find that to be, for me, it's very much like come as you are, but
Yeah.
don't stamp on top of anybody else
Right.
group.
Right.
How,
Right.
how
Right.
does that holding space go for you?
Yeah, I think this is a really important question. And it's almost like, okay, I'm just going to say it how it feels for me, but it almost feels irrelevant to me what actually happened. It feels really relevant to feel how will it impact each of us to like basically hear each version of the story. So typically, I'm interested in what historians say and what theologians say. I will also sidebar that the one thing everyone agrees on, back to your first question, is that she was wealthy. It is the only thing actually that like mystics agree, Christians agree, heretics agree, scholars who are total atheists. It's like that one, that's in the historical record. But anyway, we can like get into that. And it's in the Bible.
Yeah.
But pretty much everything else, like was she a priestess? Was she a lover? Was she a just devoted Jewish girl? Was she an Isis temple like lineage goddess? Like all of that. I want to hear it all. I want to know it all. I want to feel every puzzle piece. And I'm like less concerned with carbon dating of her gospel and like was it here and who took this and which Coptic monks didn't obey. I mean, like, I think the part of this that's so interesting is what it activates in us. I do think some of the history is very useful, like when you find out that she wasn't even called a prostitute until 600 years after she died, so some of these facts very helpful. But I think going back and forth and like trying to almost discredit mystic tradition is really just using like a fetish around objectivity to silence like women's embodied wisdom when actually like what we really need is permission to be like, what does that awaken in you? Like if you learn this tradition, even if it's a folk tradition or even if it's a mystical tradition, and it helps activate like your courage and your priestess like inner work coming through, do we really want to just pick apart like, yeah, but how could that have happened? It's like, yeah. That's like the trap patriarchal, historical, academic versions of the truth have had over us this whole time. And I think that there's a reason that we don't understand goddess wisdom and priestess lineage wisdom through the logical brain. Like, and that's why it's like rejected. So I like to look at it all. And in my mystery school, it's like, okay, here's like, we're going to read the gospel. Here's the theology. Here's the history. Here's the mystical version. And like, I think there's something true in all of it, but I'm less like pit these against each other and let's vote. You know, it's more like, okay, what rings true for you? And it has been interesting. I mean, it would be interesting to hear what you think about this. But in this first cohort, I've had a real mix of belief systems, which I personally really love. So somebody joined who's a priest, and she is like an ordained, like she leads church every week. And then I have a pagan woman who's like, I identify as a witch, and like two Muslim women. And so it's like, okay, this is like so fascinating. We're like obviously not going to all agree. One of you is like literally a priest. It's like you probably have a different relationship to this work than we do. But can you pull a piece out that's true for you? And what happens when we come together and collaborate about that instead of just like argue about what is right? God, especially men in my comments love to argue with me about things. And I'm like, how did you even get here? This is not for you. Go away. Your only participation allowed is telling us how much you love women. Other than that,
exactly.
hit the road.
Which is that, I mean, I see that same thing in women, and it is that old patriarchal model, isn't it, of someone has to be on top, someone has to be right.
Yeah, like a real commitment to hierarchy and power structures and disproving.
Yeah, I see that in the coaching industry as well. And I got very caught up in it in the beginning of my coaching work. I'm also an intimacy coach, so I've followed you for years and years. I think I've shared that with you. I've probably been in this space almost 9 years.
You've seen a lot.
Yeah. So, and when I first came in, just learned from hired women, learned from different women gurus, business gurus about how to do bro marketing, how to, and there's this pedestalization that is subtly taught. And I didn't realize how swept up I got in it until I felt like such an imposter, so isolated in the middle of my own community. It was like,
God, yes. Like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, because the more I got to know the mother and the earth and then my own body through those things, I realized I have put myself on this pedestal and I don't like it. And it took a lot for me to shift around my business. And there was a period of time where I was like, can coaches sell without being on a pedestal? Like, are people ever going to hire? Like, I had to go through a period of time of really shifting that. So I'm curious how you.
So good, Melissa. Oh my God. Do you teach this? Do you sell that? I know that's an ironic question, but honestly, that is so needed. Like, I actually can't think of a more needed conversation in the industry. So thank you for just modeling that and like an underworld journey of being willing to dismantle even stuff that's working when you know this is not it. This is not who I'm supposed to be. And I don't want to participate. It's huge and it's so brave. And it's not always immediately rewarded. I think eventually it is because it's like integrity rises, but I just really honor like the dark night of the soul that must have been, because everything around you will tell you like, oh my God, no, don't reveal any cracks in the system. Like, just keep going, just keep rising, just keep raising your prices, and just keep putting yourself further and further up on your pedestal and your island, and like be, harder and harder to reach. And frankly, it's the opposite of intimacy.
Exactly. That's what I realized.
Wait, what the fuck? What the heck?
We totally say fuck in the magazine.
Okay, great. I can't never remember what Facebook's rules are. I'm like, you guys seem really all over the place. Like, a nipple sends you apoplectic, but like apparently we can just talk about being Nazis and no one bats an eye. Like, what are the rules?
Yeah, that's really such an important, I think, concept. And now it's to the point where people hire me because they feel honored and respected and a safety and like learning how to conduct safe space, just like
Yes.
what you just described,
Yes.
be able to hold people from lots of different cultures and
Yeah.
backgrounds and have everyone walk away feeling like held and supported. I always think back to when I was in second grade and this great Mother Teresa quote about, I forget exactly what it is, but like, I hope that everyone that I walk away from, like I leave happier than when I found them.
Hmm.
And I think like that's like deep in their core, like happier than when I
Yeah.
found them, not scarcity, not like,
Yeah.
oh, Melissa's so cool, Kimberly's so cool, I wish I could
Right.
be like them.
Right.
How
Right.
how
Right.
do you like, how do you navigate that element of like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe I should hire her because if I rub shoulders with her, then the magic is gonna come off on me.
Yeah.
Like, that's so rampant in the industry.
It's so rampant. And I have to like really check it in myself more as a client, I think, than a coach. I will say my clients are often like, it's so great how like flawed you are because it gives us permission. And I'm usually thinking like, well, I didn't like mean to be so. Like, you're late, you've got cat hair on you, we can hear your baby crying, and like, yeah, you uploaded like the wrong recording to that course. And I do think, though it is very much not on purpose, and I am trying to get less chaotic. I have ADHD, very type B, but I do think it's been this permission slip for them that, like, wow, if even you can make $1 million business, like, great. But I think as a client, it has been tempting. And I have worked with a lot of the kind of like big, at least it feels they're big names to me, kind of like big name coaches. And I get a lot out of it. I'm a big relationship person and a networker. I learned later that I'm a 4 line in human design. So it was like, okay, this kind of makes sense. I'm a 4/6. So like wisdom and also like community, these are like, this makes sense that I'm like a priestess gatherer. But if I'm not careful, it's easy to get absorbed in like, oh yeah, it should look like that. Maybe I should change my whole business to look like that. Or maybe should I be doing it that way? Or like, you know, none of them are intimacy coaches. And so it's sometimes been harder for me almost to filter through. It's like, yeah, that's like one tactic if you're selling something about money, honestly, or business or whatever. But if I'm initiating people into a priestess training or even selling my course on like how to heal religious trauma or flirting, like I don't want to have an upsell and an objection handling and a this and again I'm another that. I mean, it's like no. So I try to keep a filter on that is strong and get what I am meant to receive, which is always something, I feel like I have so much to learn. I'm like, okay, yeah, I could get that, and no business training at all, which is like very obvious once you're in my mastermind and like hearing behind the scenes. It's basically just like a mistakes reel so that other people can avoid them. But I think there is this sense of like plugging into me and plugging into uncover. I've had this kind of relationship to the soul of my work that has been such a gift, because I think it has meant anytime I'm tempted to be like, oh, let me like plug into this coach, it's like, no. Like your job is to plug into you and to plug into uncover and to come back in to like, yeah, what am I meant to do? And then anyone else's suggestions, I give you like, oh yeah, that's great. Or like I joke with I have a very long time coach, Julia, who's also a good friend. And I'm like, wow, I've paid you thousands of dollars to ignore your advice for like years and years. But it is true that it's like ultimately we have to be listening to us. And an ideal coach, I think, is just like pointing you to do that again and again. And unfortunately, like not everybody is, but yeah, I think that is it's our greatest like gift if we can do that again and again.
Exactly. Wealth of like spring of resource within us.
Yeah.
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 Well, and let's like do circle back to this element of Magdalene and wealth.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
look at her and I think like she, for one, we know that she was always willing to stand alone for what she knew.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then what she did with her wealth, like,
Yeah.
you know, basically funded the ministry. And I think
Yes.
about that today when we talk about right relation with the spiritual traditions that we're borrowing from, when we talk about um, reciprocity, when we talk about really honoring the journey that people of color have walked
Yes.
and the way that it's shaped, all of the privilege that we now get to experience.
Yeah.
How do you relate with that? And how
Mhm.
does your relationship with like managing your wealth and resourcing your wealth,
Yeah.
how does that show up for you?
Oh my God. It's like the most important question. And it's one that I definitely feel like I'm still living in and always asking. But yeah, I part of my education privilege, which is like obviously immense, is that in as one of my fields in my PhD, I got to work on critical race theory. Like it's not something that gets taught to fucking kindergartners or whatever Republicans were worried about, but it is something you can study as a doctoral student. And so I got to like really from the beginning and before I even had a business, have this like decolonization commitment and this, awareness. Like I remember one of my advisors talking about how you can't study sex in US history without studying race. Like it is a history of racism and dehumanization and violence. And so is all of the work in theory on pleasure that comes from womanist and Black feminist writers. And so it was like built for me in from the very beginning, even before I really knew what I was asking, that there were questions built in around race and that I wasn't going to have the answers to those. And so I do feel like one of the things that meant was that I was lucky enough to know like I need to seek out like support in that area like from the beginning. And there was a time where, even beyond business coaching, like I was investing the most each month in decolonization coaching and like part of this amazing mastermind that really shaped me and changed my life with my now good friend Louise. Louisa Duran is her government name, but according to Louise is like her stuff online. And she's not the only person that I learned from, but she definitely like shaped a lot of my work, of my worldview, like from the beginning. And I think what has been, I don't know. Okay, I want to answer your question in like a million ways. One, on a very practical note, I feel like it's like influenced how I think about money in my business because at first I think my natural reaction was there's so much inequality. I'm this white woman. I shouldn't make money. That'll be that'll be my contribution. Like I'll stay broke. And that did flip over into the more I make, the more I can give. The more I can give, I have donated to causes I really believe in, including some that are explicitly about race. So it felt kind of like, okay, that was huge to be like, I could either stay broke or I can give $50,000 to loving Black single mothers. I know which one of those makes a bigger difference now. And I needed that because otherwise, I think my desire to be good and not part of the problem and not a contributor to violence, which of course we are no matter what, even if we're not donating money, So it was like I had to get over some of that. But there's another piece that I know you care about a lot, and I really feel so emotional and like so encouraged by so much of the work you're doing and the work I see the people you're talking with doing too, because the priestess side of the coaching world has been like pretty harrowing to watch over the last few years as I feel like really helped elect Trump and like get so in bed with MAGA, usually through the lens, which this is just the same with my Christian women too. So I'm just like appalled like in every direction. But still, it's like, through Maha or like an idea of kind of like, okay, we don't like him, but maybe he'll get us like what we want or something. Or women in our industry, and this is very Christian sounding, who are just like, oh, I'm not involved. Like, I'm above this. I'm about unity. Like, I'm love and light. I don't vote. I don't get into that. It's like dirty or whatever. And I just really had felt almost like, can I even like be part of this? Like, can I even be in this industry if it's just these white women saying that they're priestesses, but not giving a shit that ICE is like storming communities of color and like killing people? Like, it just felt really like this is not the priestess lineage that I know. Mary Magdalene was exiled because she was a enemy of the state. She was so dangerous. Like, that's how she ends up in France. She didn't just go for fun. So I'm like, okay, we have a blueprint of somebody who like gives a fuck about the poor and like cares about other people and is actually, like you said, willing to stand alone. And I did not see that very much in like what was the most popular, even like some of the Mary Magdalene groups that like I'm in. It would just be like, oh, like we're in the like 144D or whatever. And I'd be like, get back here. Like, we need you in the 3D to help us. And so, anyway, I'm just really glad that there are much wider conversations happening. And, I think it is one of those things where my hope would be that we basically like reclaim this side of the conversation, because the last thing, in my opinion, it's about is bypassing real human suffering. Like, it feels like that is the craziest interpretation that I could possibly think of. Like, priestess does not mean thin white woman in a free people dress. Like, it is this stuff instead. And like, I think it's deeply radical and deeply dangerous for a reason.
Absolutely. And it's I have compassion for all sides of this, because that was me. Like, that was totally me. I used to be MAGA, and I used to be
My
so
God, you're
conservative.
so good. We need you. Okay, so good.
And I know that for myself, using all of the tools that I had acquired to bypass the pain that I felt in my own life, and the pain
Yes.
that I felt I was incapable of extending myself to in
Mm,
what the experience of people of color was, really served me for a long time. It was a
yeah.
stepping stone in my journey that
Oh,
ultimately led me to, wait, I think my heart is big enough, and let me crack open.
oh my God.
And
That's so
so this
amazing.
is why I'm like, we have to be having these conversations. I think that women need to hear, like, your heart is big enough, and it matters, and you can extend yourself. And the other thing that I look at in the bigger scheme with the MAGA movement and everything is, I was so focused on stuff that wasn't real. I was so
Yeah.
focused on like preserving the afterlife, that
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention to political issues like how much tips the waitresses were getting paid. Like that was not even in my, I wasn't even thinking about that as an issue. I was too busy thinking about, crazy conspiracy shit about people eating the children and stuff. And
Right.
stuff that like I literally had no control over at all. And kind of recognizing like the mother was asking me to go in. And I think the more we get into our bodies, the more that we get out of that kind of nonsense stuff. And I just feel like the capacity to hold space for somebody in that falling apart is
Yeah.
is really important.
What a beautiful bridge you are.
Thank you.
I think too, it's easy for the left to just like not understand at all why especially women would vote against our own interests and be drawn in by this stuff that is like pretty objectively like horrible for us. And I think that when you've been on the inside of it and have felt the belonging, but have also felt the passion and maybe even felt the values in theory that we would agree with, even if in practice they're not what leads, it's like you're able to like speak a language that a lot of activists wouldn't even like know where to begin with people. And it is true that I'm seeing a wave. I feel like I saw a wave with evangelical women, which is like most my specialty and my former home. Um, during like Black Lives Matter, a feeling of like I have to divest because my church is either not saying anything or they're on the wrong side. And like this does not feel right. And then another wave happening now around ICE and around the Epstein files and like women, Christian women in particular, being like, I'm sorry, you've spent 2 decades telling me that sex trafficking is like the most important issue of our day and that I'm supposed to be, God's hands and feet for justice. And now you're doing nothing or worse, like encouraging me to do nothing. And so I'm seeing an uptick in, especially in terms of like my content and what's getting shared and going viral. It's the stuff about like Christian women waking up and being like, I actually still love God, but this seems fucked. Like, where do I go instead? And I would say, like, all the more reason for you to be doing your work and me to be doing my work because it's like, come sit with us. Like, you don't have to give up all the parts of this that matter to you. You might even find, you can have a different version that feels even more aligned.
Yeah, beautiful. As we begin to wrap this up, and I
We
loved
could talk for 5 hours.
we really could. I'd love to ask about holding transformational space. So we both are bringing women into containers and inviting women to be held and inviting women to step more deeply into their truth. What do you feel like really creates a safe space and allows women to move through transformation?
Well, I love already you've modeled this like in such a beautiful way, but I feel like when we are vulnerable about our own story, it is a big permission slip. Like I was teaching this class this week that I was designing to be my like intro class if you've never met me before. And for some reason decided to open module 1 with the story about how I like had an affair and got kicked out of Bible study. And it's like that's probably like actually not the most inviting.
Oh, that's amazing.
But it like came out. I'm like, okay. But I do think either that will help weed out anyone who's like, nope, I'm out of here, or be the biggest permission slip. And I have had clients tell me before, like, well, I knew I could tell you anything. You're not going to judge me because, like, look what you've been through. Yeah. And I think you even just in this interview already are modeling that, that like when you tell the truth, you give everyone permission to tell the truth. And then I do love a container setting. I feel like I've really learned this over the years from different mentors I've worked with. And just when somebody's like holding the space I'm thinking about this a lot because of what we were talking about with how this round of the mystery school, so far, everyone who's joined it runs their own Mary Magdalene mystery school. And I've been thinking, like, okay, what can I offer? My version, the luxury Paris part and the books. Like, of course, there are like some of these things. But I think another is like, what about when you're always the one holding the space and then you get to go be held, and what would it really be like to offer like a container for the container holders? And I think it is just one of those, kind of speaking to your point about collaboration, it's like not about anybody being better. It's just about like, okay, my role in this version, this round is to hold you. And then maybe next year, like I'll be in yours, or maybe at the same time, or whatever it is. But like here I get to relax. Here you're holding the container. And I could just come fall apart if I want. I mean, not that leaders can't fall apart, but I think I feel the best when I'm like, okay, I know that she's held. I can come be held by her. Yeah. She can hold them, And this is probably why people accuse us of being in an MLM, but it's really more like Russian nesting dolls.
I love that. Oh, that's beautiful. I think too about the things that have been emerging more so since I have moved out of this tiny box where I used to work and into this more vast, like, let's work with all of humankind and bring everyone together, is like really clear agreements where people know there's a safety around confidentiality. Yes. They know there's a safety around consent. They know there's a safety around this is a big piece I see in this Magdalene space, is consent around willingness to receive somebody else's intuitive download about me. Like,
yes.
Like, let me just tell you what Magdalene wants you to know right now. And it's like,
in fact, she wants you to know you're supposed to pay me $20,000.
So real. That is
I had somebody say once to me, this is so fucked up. Somebody once was like, you already said yes in the quantum realm. So I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Luckily, I mean, I was like young in my journey. So I was like, oh my God, what? And she was like, your soul is so dark. You like need to pay me all this money to do energy work on you to clear it. And I was like still coming out of my church. I mean, that is the most churchy shit you could recreate in here. But luckily I was like, this feels weird. I'm like not in. But yeah, you already said yes. I got to download you're in. Not good.
No. And even, going to these sacred sites, like, I think there's a vulnerability that our spirit naturally enters into when we're going towards something that maybe like our bones remember being there before, or at least remember through our ancestry or whatever the case may be, to know that those around you are not going to project onto you who you are or what this means about you or, whatever. Like, we need that kind of safety. Else I think the work only goes so deep, don't you?
I agree completely. Yeah, I think that kind of back to what you were saying about the pedestal thing. I mean, it's like, how many spaces is it just like, oh gosh, we're accidentally just like protecting the ego of the leader instead of like, if she were good holding herself, everyone else would have space for like their own transformation. And instead there's like a weird fawn response happening and like,
it feels like the longer, like, I don't know, you almost have to go through these initiatory nonsense things to get to the place to be a person that actually knows how to create safe space.
I totally agree. I will say too, I think coming from a background of church drama, like, is a secret weapon in this industry, because it's like, okay, even that story I just told, it's like you kind of could see a little more of like wait a minute, I know all about this. And is this similar to like the pastor with the private jet? Like, like I see like some of my parallels are really obvious. And I think that like it almost gives you a heightened sense of being able to like see through things.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But first you feel crazy.
Gifts, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And while I was in the church was the time that I was hiring the most narcissistic style of coaches. And it wasn't
Oh my
until
God.
I was
That
like,
is so, I
right?
can't
Like I
wait
was
for
like,
your
oh,
memoir about
what?
this. Yes. Oh my God. It's so good. It's such an astute observation. And it makes total sense because we were groomed by our religious traditions to like accept authority pretty much blindly, to consider ourselves wrong by default, and to not prioritize what feels good and right to us.
Yeah. Well, I've loved this
I know that's a
conversation.
bummer note to end on, but like the upside is that is not how it has to be. And like, look at both of us.
Mhm. I don't even feel like it's a bummer. I hope that those listening feel this sense of like, oh, right,
Yeah.
permission to like listen to your inner truth, permission
Yes.
to know your inner yes and no.
Yeah.
And that to me is a lifelong journey.
Yes.
The more I find inside of
Yes.
me about my yes and no, the more I discover that there is to be discovered. It's
Yes.
amazing. So, well, thank you, Kimberly.
Oh,
This is so fun. And
so
like for
fun.
years, I've been like, we need to meet, we need to
We
collaborate.
knew.
And
I mean, we didn't know, but we did know. I know. It's so like, I feel like she's like laughing. Like, I finally got them together.
agreed. Well, thank you. Do you want to tell us for a moment about what you're calling people into? Like, let's hear
Yes.
about
Oh
it.
my God, please. Well, I have a mini course that you would probably like called Harlots and Heretics. Actually, one thing that is so funny is that I set the ManyChat responder to be heretic for that. So I wake up to all these messages being like, heretic, 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 heretic. And I'm like, oh, right, right, right. After I have a little heart attack, I remember I fucking said it that way. And it's just them getting my course. But like, whew. Anyway. But that's available. It's about Mary Magdalene and the mystics and just kind of like secret church history. And then the big offer is my version of my Mary Magdalene Mystery School, which so far is the mystery school for the ones who hold their own Mary Magdalene Mystery Schools, which I love. And yeah, it involves circling. It's a 15-month priestess training. And I basically like Robin Hood everything I had from Yale and my PhD. But we also go to France and go to Paris and go to the south of France and crown ourselves. And yeah, I mean, I think it's not the right fit for everybody, but for the 13, it is. I think it's like what we all needed. It's the thing I wanted, which is why probably we're all orbiting each other.
Yeah.
Priestess economy. I don't know. There's like a lot of worse things I think I could do with money than pay other women doing good work. So I'm
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you feel like is the like what do you see or hope that women will gain from
Mm.
being in that container with you?
Yeah, it's kind of a leadership incubator. I mean, I do see already because we've done one cohort, they're going to help do some special. So the ones continuing on in the second year will help around the
Mm.
next year. But like, I mean, I see a lot. I see more money flowing because Mary Magdalene is this like wealth channel and more intimacy and like love. And there's pleasure practices and feeling more embodied. I think we've all gotten sexier. Like, if I'm just being so for real, I definitely feel like I have. But I would say more than all of that, it's the like claiming our voice and like what am I the priestess of. Like somebody this morning who's in the first cohort shared this thing that I know was scary for her about evangelicals and war and Trump and like what she sees. And I just was thinking, like, I think a year ago, she would have been too scared to do that. A year ago, I would have been too scared to post some of what I'm posting now. And not that I'm claiming that posting on the internet is like our only work in the world, but like there is something about claiming our brave leadership, whatever that is. And it is different for everybody. Like somebody, I feel like she uncovered like a different business that's about nurturing children. So it's not like I think we all need to go out there posting incendiary things just like me in order to be leaders. But it is something about like really uncovering like what am I the priestess of and like what is my leadership in this moment. And we're looking around at a world just torched by wounded masculine leadership in shambles that is just like intimacy wound after another running like the geopolitics in our economy. It feels like it is time for priestesses instead to be like, okay, you go take a nap. Like I'm stepping in. And so like what is that for each of us? And like I think the other thing is that in the moments where we feel tired, that we would know like someone's carrying me. Because I feel that. I'm like, oh, when this mission felt like it was just mine, that felt too heavy. But when it felt like it's me and 13 other priestesses and they've got me and they'll tell me when my like crown is crooked and I can help them and they can help me, then like I feel like we can do it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Those of you watching again, whether you're live, thanks for watching with us, whether you're on replay, we would love to hear your comments and thoughts. We hope you enjoyed this interview. Go give Kimberly a follow. It is about this shared ecosystem. And I really feel like women who are stepping into this and listening more and more to their bodies, like this is the undercurrent that is going to shift what we see in our mainstream narrative and is going to shift the way that we relate, because Magdalene is all about love, like true love. So we thank you. We thank you, Kimberly, for the work that you do. And thank you to those of you who watched, and keep an eye out for our next Magdalene interview series, as well as Black Madonna Codes, which is every Tuesday at 10:30. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.